Welcome back to the channel. This is my 2023 Ducati Panigale V2, and just over a few weeks ago now, I purchased this motorcycle fully wrecked for around $2,000.
Jackpot.
And we are attempting to fully rebuild this, get it back on the road in hopefully like new. I wanted an exhaust so bad. This thing sucks. Or if not, better than new condition. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Panigale V2 rebuild series. Hand file that down. All right. Ooh. So far in this build, we've done a ton of tear down on this motorcycle. We've gotten the entire front end taken apart. We got the exhaust taken apart. All of the plastics pretty much are off the motorcycle. And now we are starting to get in an influx of parts to replace on this motorcycle. One of the main parts that I'm super excited has come in is this one right here. And that part is in this box. To me, it's the best because it gave me the most trouble with Diablo. And if you've watched that series, you may already know what this is going to be. And it's this. It's a replacement for these lower fork clamps and the steering stem on the Panigale. So here is the replacement. It is a brand new, from Italy, lower steering assembly. So you have the steering stem, you have the lower fork clamps. All of that's already here. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. And I'm very excited about it. Now, although yes, that is probably one of the most exciting parts for me that has come in so far from all the parts that I've ordered for this Panigale, it's not what I'm going to start with today. The front end of this motorcycle is fairly tight. There's not a whole lot of room here to start working once that whole front end is in place. So once the forks are there, it's going to be hard to get the radiator, to get the headers on, and I don't yet have the front header or the new exhaust. And so because of that, I want to leave as much space available to do that work when those things come. When they come, those are going on next. It will be in this episode, so stick around for that. But what I'd like to do first is get on this back end and start getting that put together, and we'll start there today. So first things first, what we're going to put back onto this motorcycle is probably the last thing we took off the motorcycle when it comes to this front end, and that was this under tray, this under fairing, whatever this is called. This is, I believe, the last thing we took off the motorcycle, so this is what's going to go back on first. This is broken. I got a new one, but we want to take out the locking mechanism and any other parts on this that I think are going to be able to be reused, going on the new one, and then we'll slide it back on here. Looking at this piece with the new one right beside it, you can actually see that there's more damage here than I noticed when looking at it first. So these two pieces right here were totally ripped out, and in the new one you can see they're actually inlaid where bolts would actually screw into the bottom here. Those were completely ripped out in the accident for the old one. But there are pieces on here that are very reusable, like all this hardware. So we're going to go ahead and remove that right now. And all of these reusable pieces of hardware that we're able to save is just money saved, money that then can go back into the motorcycle. Okay. Now this, garbage. Now this has two little notches. So you have a notch on this side here, you have a notch on this side here, and those match up with the notches here. All right, with everything put on, we should be able to just slip it underneath here. And it should line up. There we go. Now, the next section that I was going to put on this motorcycle that was in my head as the next step was what is probably like the rear seat mount. And that looks like this right here. And it sits right on the back of the bike, sort of like so. One thing I know is this piece here that I have is broken. And I did buy it broken. It was much cheaper broken than brand new. And so what I want to do is see if I can fix it. Now to fix it, we have to do a little bit of work on it. Let's walk through that together back at the bench. So we can see how it's broken right here. There's a crack that goes all along this piece here. And it does make me a little nervous just because if you flip this over, this is one of the mounting points of this piece. There's another mounting point up here as well that is perfectly intact. But this is also where the rear seat of the bike sits, and if this breaks off, that rear passenger might be in trouble. But what I know we can do is we can score this out here, add epoxy to the crack to give it rigidity, and then on the back do the same as well. So we'll have to take off this piece here. We'll have to do another drill down the back edge of this as well, just to remove a little bit of material so that the epoxy can set in really nicely and give it a whole bunch of strength. And then let's be honest, how many passengers are really going on Panigale V2s? A lot of people transition from the back seat to no back seat, and so I'm not too worried about it. It's in this video now, so whoever buys this bike next knows that this has been repaired. And I'll also disclaim everything when I go to sell this bike, if I go to sell it, and we'll be good to go from there. At first glance, it may seem counterintuitive to widen this crack, but what I'm trying to do is give the epoxy that's going to fill this enough area to actually take hold on this bracket itself. This 3M product that I'm using is no joke. It leaves little room for error with its 20-second work time, but it dries as if it's OEM. It will take a little bit of touch up after it dries, but it's definitely worth it in the end. So we got all the epoxy in here. You can kind of see it. It's really shiny still right now. This epoxy is amazing because of just how fast it works. So technically, at about 20 minutes, I can go ahead and sand this down and get it looking really nice. I probably won't do that. I'll probably give it a few hours, if not a full 24 hours. And because of the holes that we drilled in there, it really should take hold of this really well. I'm not really worried about it. With that out of the way, we can move on to something much more exciting, and that is this right here. The front header has come in the mail. Technically, I got the entire set, so I had to get the front header, the rear header, and the link pipe and all of that. But it was actually, for whatever reason, cheaper to get all of them than just this front header. So this is going to go on the motorcycle next, and that's very exciting because then we can move on to the new exhaust. And let me show you that. All right, what I was able to pick up with this motorcycle fairly cheaply was this right here. And it is I don't know how to pronounce it technically, a Tochi? I'm gonna assume it's called Tochi. The Tochi slip-on exhaust. It's for the V2 Panigale, the V2 Street Fighter, and I believe it should work out perfectly fine. It's an eBay purchase, and when it came in, it didn't have all of the hardware needed to install it. So it didn't have the hangers, and it was missing a couple of bolts and springs. And so I ordered those separately from the manufacturer. Those should be coming here very shortly. But until then, we can put the header on, and once the header is on, then the whole front of the bike can go on, because once that front header's on, we're pretty much golden. Everything exhaust related is back here. So very exciting. I'm gonna get this header on, and very quickly we can start getting this bike to a more livable state. So with this front header, there are 3 of these little nuts, and then it connects to the rear header with the clamp itself. So there's really not a ton holding besides these nuts and the clamp itself holding its front header in place. I do remember now that to get this nut, so I have 2 good nuts. This nut here, I had to file down. I don't know if you can see it. So now this hex head nut is square. And I had to do that because it did not want to come off for anything. I kept stripping the head of the nut, and so I had to file it down square so I could get something over it and be able to get it off. So I had to order a new one of these, but 2 is better than none.
Really? Nothing.
So we're gonna keep moving, get this on, and worry about that last nut later.
That's what she said.
All right, with this header, this goes on. Good. Easy peasy. All right, so that's the two good bolts on. Like I said, this bolt here is really mangled, so I don't know if I really want to put it on for no reason right now. I just have to take it off later. So right now what we need to do as well is move to the back, tighten up that clamp, and we should be good to go with this header for now. Just got to give this bolt here a quick snug, and we are golden. Just like that, the front header is installed, and we can go ahead and move on to other things in the motorcycle that are also equally as exciting. With that front header out of the way, we can move back to the front and secure the charcoal canister back into its place. The bracket that it sits on has 3 screws that hold it in place, and the canister itself is just strapped in nice and neat and snug. What we can do now actually is move on to the front of this motorcycle, to the steering stem, to the triple clamps, see if we can get the old one out and maybe put the new one in. That might be too ambitious, but we can go ahead and give it a shot. I was really excited about this next step, right up until I couldn't get this bolt to move for the life of me. If you have any sympathy for me in this my struggle, drop a like, smash the follow button. This isn't the last time you'll see me struggle. So this thing is pretty mangled and not wanting to come off at all. So it looks like we're gonna do a little bit more dremeling to get this off. It should come off pretty easily. There's not a ton of metal holding it on. So we'll try that, we'll give it a shot. It's always a little nerve-wracking grabbing the Dremel tool and just hacking away. But with the little knowledge that I gained from the Diavol doing the same thing, I wasn't too worried about getting a little bit more aggressive with this part. That'll do it. Luckily, it definitely worked out in my favor. The steering stem was definitely giving me some more trouble, so a little tap, tap, tap from the hammer. Oh, there we go. And now she's come. That came out. That is good. That's out. We're good. Now, the nice thing is, this is part of the lower triple, and all of that comes in one piece, which I already have, which is great. Okay. So I was going to replace this front steering stem, but I did find something that's going to stop me from doing that just yet, and that is the steering stem's bearing. The top bearing here looks really good. It's the bottom bearing here that is no good. And I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can get the camera to show you. Oh, well, there you go. So this bearing is cracked. And I'll have to go back and find that bearing that I just lost, but this is no good. And so I'll have to purchase a replacement for at least one, if not both of these. I thought about moving to a better race bearing, but the actual race that these sit in are made for these ball bearings, and I don't want to have to replace those races because that's a process that I don't want to have to do again. So I'm going to order these, and then we can go ahead and install this steering. It is the next day here, and so what I would like to do is go ahead and take this part here and try to get it back to looking as OEM as possible. And what that means is sanding down just this front part here. The epoxy is fully cured. This technically cures fully in about an hour. It's been probably 14 hours since we applied it. The back we're gonna leave as is to just leave as much epoxy and structural rigidity as possible. But right now, let's go ahead and sand this down, get it looking really nice. We're not trying to make this look perfect, but we are trying to make this look fairly good. These smaller parts of the process are a nice change of pace. They're very necessary for me in that we're trying to fix something rather than buy new, and that's super helpful when it comes to a tight budget. It's also still very enjoyable. With the touch-up of the epoxy all finished up, it's now time to install this rear bracket back into its home and get this rear end looking good. For this bracket, we have 3 bolts to install, one of these small bolts on each side that bolt directly into the rear subframe, and one longer bolt that slots through the subframe and gets tightened down with a nut. I won't lie, I've clipped this to make it look easier than it really was. It definitely would have gone a lot easier without the lower plastic getting in the way constantly, so if you're doing it at home, take that off first and then install this part. Alrighty, that is looking much better. We have the lower and the top section here all put back together. It's all wired up for the key as well here at the bottom. Now we just got to do two more things, which is the passenger grip where they hold on to. And that's just this here. So 2 bolts go in the bottom here. And then we can go ahead and put the rear light in, and then possibly even the rear turn signal and plate holder, which I got something special for that as well. So let's go ahead and try to put those few things on before we move on to the rest of the bike. The strap is truly an easy last step to this installation. It's just 2 bolts that tighten down to the bracket itself from the top. If you've never worked on your own motorcycle before, or if you've never worked on really anything before, I would say start with a project like this. Something easy to do, something that's a quick win, something that'll get you started. Now for this taillight, it should be a relatively easy install. There's only one little screw, it's not even a bolt, a screw that goes in the back here that holds it to the bike, but there are these 1, 2, 3 that go into both the top section up here and this bottom section down here. So they slide into place, and that kind of locks this rear taillight in place on the motorcycle. And then the electronics here slip in through a little hole in the rear fairings right back here that will be covered up once the full fairing set goes on. But it should be a fairly easy install. Let's give it a shot. I go back and forth with Ducati. There are parts like this that just is easy to install, and then there are other parts that should be easy that are definitely not. Come on, find your home. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Electronics are in the back. That's lined up there. Boom. And then the one little screw goes right back here, and it's truly just a wee little screw. And we're good. And that should be the tail light sorted, I believe. We still need to hook it up into the electronics and make sure everything's good to go, but I think that should be pretty simple. Here are the old electronics. I believe this is the wiring to the old tail light. Pop that off. See ya. And then pop that on there, shove it underneath, and be good. Last but not least, I would like to install the rear turn signals, and for that, I got a Facebook Marketplace purchase, which is this here. It doesn't look like much, but is a fully carbon fiber tail tidy by Fulcrum Designs, I believe. And so this should hopefully be a fairly tidy install. It comes together really nicely. It should slip underneath here like this and look really, really nice. I don't know exactly how this goes on just yet, so we're gonna figure it out as we go, but let's give it a shot. You definitely take a higher risk of failure, or at least a rougher time, with items like this. Purchased from either Facebook Marketplace or eBay, you end up not always having all the parts or the instructions to guide you along. Luckily, this part fit pretty cleanly into the OEM slots and connected without incident to the OEM wiring. Now, to be honest, I haven't actually tested this just yet, but I assume it works. It wired up really cleanly, and I do think it looks really nice. There have been very few parts that I've been able to find that have had this sort of, carbon fiber flair to it, but this was a fun find and a nice added touch. And just like that, the back of this motorcycle is starting to look much more like a Panigale V2. And that's really exciting, because now we can start moving to the front of the motorcycle and get the front of that looking like a regular motorcycle again as well. It's gonna be great. As we move on to the front of the motorcycle, we can move on to something a little bit different than what we've been doing so far, but still this is very beneficial to the build and also help inform the front end build of the bike as well. I would like to next tear this whole front end down essentially. So this is what came off of the bike in the accident. This was pretty much just ripped off of the bike. It was only held on by the fuel lines themselves, which those will have to be replaced just because of how much wear and tear they got in that process. I'll truly never get over how pitiful this bike looks being dropped into the back of this truck. The first thing I want to tackle are these forks here, get these off. And to do that, there are 2 bolts here at the bottom, 1 and 2. So these need to come off first. this whole front end was well and truly mangled together. Luckily, loosening things up and with a little bit of muscle, things started to come apart pretty easily. There we go. Ugh. All right, one down. And on this part, we can actually probably save this horn right here. That's salvageable. Looks like the wiring got torn out of it, but not ruined completely. So we put that aside. Make sure to take all these little bolts off of it, here and here. Anything that's salvageable, we're gonna try to keep. Unfortunately, this brake caliper right here is kind of smashed in between the rim and the rotor itself. And so what I'll probably do next is take off the rotor. That way I can get the brake caliper off and see what the damage is to this. Brake rotor should be fairly simple. There are 2, 4, 5 bolts holding it in. The only issue that I can see is just that it's free spinning right now. And so breaking these is maybe a little bit tough just as it spins, but we'll do our best. Like the entire rest of this front end, these rotors are complete trash. But like we said in the beginning, salvaged hardware is money back in the pocket, and honestly, knowledge is priceless. All the bolts came out really easily, no warpage, no scarring. I can't say the same about the rotor though. I do have high hopes for the brake unit though. Why does that look... Oh no, that's bent. Well, garbage. Honestly, this thing looks pretty good. A little bit of rust, but that's like normal. Cool, that's good. I like it. All right, I think we got everything on this side, so let's flip her over. Oh man. Oh, actually, let's get that out first, and then we'll flip it over. Oh, gosh. No joke, this bolt on the Diavel, putting this back on was a nightmare, just because I didn't have the right tool, but now I do. Don't miss that. Perfect. Okay, now we can flip it over. All right, round 2. I was really hopeful for this mudguard, but the closer I was taking it off, the quicker my hopes were fading. All right, this one's not the greatest. I thought it'd be much better, but it looks like almost everywhere that could be cracked is cracked. And that's just more work than it's gonna be worth to just replace it. So replace it we shall. And that'll be easier for me in the end. Less body work, less paint. Another thing that I want to try to keep is this right here, which is the speed sensor. Wiring looks great, no damage there. So we're just gonna pull that out here, make sure we have that before we take this front fork off and lose it. Oh. So this should come out, and it should come out with 1,000 spacers, my guess is. Yep. Okay, so it comes out with just 2 spacers? I swear the Diavel had like 6. Get this fork off. It's already paying off. All right. Oh, that comes off much easier. Great. No, that's way bent. The other one surprised me how close that it looked, but this one is like all over the place. That's trash. Oh. Woo. Jeepers. Oh. Woo. Yeah, she a banana. Yeah, that one's pretty warped bad. Good thing I got a new one. Well, first of all, I got the smudge off my face. Second off, looking at this wheel, I'm very curious how the accident happened. There's a huge dent on this side, a smaller dent on this side, and the headlight and the front top fairing of the motorcycle didn't take too much damage, and so it doesn't seem to me that it was a full like head-on collision. It is very interesting to me, just by looking at this and trying to think through like how this could have happened to the bike. Hit something and then fallen over, fell over, and then the front end ran into something. Who knows necessarily? But just looking at this wheel, it's a curious tale. There is a crack in the wheel itself, so they hit something hard. That is going to be it for this wheel. This wheel is garbage. There's nothing to be salvaged from this. And this is my new wheel. This is perfect. It comes with everything I need. It is used, but it's used in almost new. My guess is this was a wheel somebody had on the bike, bought it off the floor, and replaced it immediately with their track wheel set, because these rotors are basically brand new. The tires themselves, basically brand new. And they're Super Corsa SPs, which is really cool. It comes with everything I need. It comes with all of the screws. It comes with a brand new everything. So this, again, steal of a deal, in my opinion. We are going to be moving back onto the triple tree at this point. These are the ruined bearings that we had last time. I actually never found the bearing ball that came out of that one. But in this package here, we have the replacements. These are what I was looking for. They are coming out of a used bike, but they are coming out of a used bike that was pretty much new. They replaced these with the more race style bearings. These are going to be perfect for me. They're going to be perfect for this build. And so let's go ahead and start putting that back together. Installing these bearings starts by adding a good bit of grease. The top bearing gets a race and dust guard. The bottom slides onto the steering system itself, which already has a race installed, and then it gets pushed up into the frame. Then on goes a steering nut to tighten things down. Now that we have the steering stem and the triple tree installed fairly lightly, I want to move forward and install all of the case covers that we had taken off during the end of the first episode and the second episode, covering all of the clutch housing and all of that. So let's move on to that next. Putting all of these covers back on turned out to be much more of an effort than I had anticipated. If you remember, or just go back and rewatch episodes 1 and 2, you'll see that there was a lot going in and around these brackets. Wires needed to be routed, brake lines needed shoring up, bolts need washers, the list goes on and on. This clutch card was fairly simple to install and attaches to the clutch case itself with 3 bolts. Next, we're attaching this smaller bracket which acts as a wire and brake line guide, as well as where the brake reservoir attaches. This bracket is actually locked down with 3 special nuts that are extended in order to grab onto the bolts on the clutch housing. And finally, you have the ECU bracket itself. Installing this is fairly simple. There are 3 spacers that go into their slots, and those are followed by 3 screws that go directly into the frame itself, and 1 screw that holds the ECU in its place. So I've gotten most of this put back together, and I believe in their right spots. I'm not 100% sure I've routed all of the wires exactly where they're supposed to be, but I do think they're good enough. Let me show you a little bit what we're dealing with. So again, not knowing where everything is supposed to go, plugging everything in where it needs to go, making sure it fit nice and snug in its right spot was a little bit of a tedious task and just a little bit of a guessing game. But everything seems pretty good. Everything's routed really nicely, so I can't complain. And with that, I believe that's where we're going to stop the episode for today. In the next episode, we are 100% going to attempt the first start of this motorcycle. We have everything we need to get this bike ready for its first start. We have the radiator, we have the fuel tank still, we have all the electronics back in line, we have it oiled up, ready for a start, and that's what we're going to be doing. So stick around, we're going to get this bike at least attempted to start and figure out if we have any more engine damage to deal with. But until then, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, smash the like button, drop me a follow if you can. If you have already followed me, tell your friends and family to follow me, that'd be fantastic. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Catch you next time. Bye.